Good day, everyone. How are you today? I hope everyone is doing great. I am Leia Erica Bindio together with my partner Miss Dolino. May this day bring you extra fun and excitement as we discuss the approaches to literary criticism. So let us start by thinking of books you have already read. So now think, okay, what literary piece you find remarkable and inspiring? Get a one-half sheet of paper to write the title and your reasons of why choosing that literary piece. Okay, now start. Are you done? Okay, very good. Now let's discuss the approaches to literary criticism. First, formalist criticism. It attempts to discover meaning by close reading of a work of literature, considers the work in isolation, disregarding the author's intent, author's background, context, and anything else outside of the work itself. Okay, so it has two major tenets of formalism. First, literary texts have fixed meanings. This means they exist independent of any particular reader or context. Second, the greatest literary texts are timeless and universal. Okay, now, number two, biological criticism. So, biological criticism emphasizes the importance of the author's life and background into account when analyzing a text. So, it has three tenets of biological criticism. First, understanding an author's background can help readers interpret a text. Second, understanding an author's difficulties in creating the text can help readers appreciate a text. And studying the way authors apply and modify their own life experiences in their works can help readers understand the author. And three, methodological criticism. Though the title suggests that it is about mythology, the meaning has nothing to do with it because methodological criticism examines the universal elements of human life as they occur across cultures. So it has major tenets of methodological criticism. Archetypes are central to this form. Archetypes are the universal elements occurring in literary works from all over the world. Now let's go to number 4, new histories or historical criticism. So it possesses that every literary work is the product of its time and its world. It has two tenets of new historicist criticism. It gives appropriate background information to help readers understand how texts were perceived in their lifetime or in their time. And it examines how literary texts reflect the ideas, beliefs, and attitude of the time in which they were created. And for number 5, psychological or psychoanalytic criticism. So it is based on the work of Sigmund Freud. Do you know him? So the text is seen as a reflection of the author's mind and personality. So it has two tenets of psychological or psychoanalytic criticism. It views characters in literature as a reflection of the author herself or himself. And it uses in-depth character analysis to understand ulterior motives of the characters. And for number 6, the constructionist criticism argues that because there is no single meaning of any word, there is no single meaning of any text. All texts have multiple valid meanings because readers will interpret words differently than the writer intended them. So it has two tenets of the constructionist criticism. So most literary criticism focuses on the construction of a larger meaning from the text, but the constructionist criticism focuses on the deconstruction or tearing down of any meaning within a text by a variety of readers. So everything and anything can be relative to you. So
good afternoon, everyone. My name is Valia Jandolino, and so today I am going to discuss with you the remaining approaches to literary criticism. So, for our number 7, we have here the reader's response criticism. So, just like how it sounds, It is the way of how the readers respond to the text that he or she is reading. It also argues that the meaning of the text is dependent upon how the readers respond to the text. So the focus here is more about the act of reading and how it affects the reader's perception of a text. It is also more about the text as an experience, not as an objective, because our judgment here is influenced by our personal feelings or personal opinions. So a reader's response would ask the reader to examine, to explain, and defend his or her personal perception. It would also explore why you like or dislike the reading, explain whether you agree or disagree with the author, identify the reading's purpose, and critique the text. So here's an example of a reader's response approach analysis. So I want you to pause this video for you to read this at your own pace. So, from the sample that I have presented, what have you observed about it? Yes, one of those is that the reader tells us how the story affects her, and that is that the story is daunting. And then followed by the reason why she doesn't like the reading. And then her observation about the story, and followed by the interpretation of the action of Esperanza for continuing the wedding even though she knows that Alfredo cheated on her. The meaning of the text is not really in there until the reader engages with it. So the text here is a living thing that exists in the reader's imagination. So basically, reader plus reading situation plus text equals to meaning. So there are two tenets of reader response criticism. First, we have here a person's interpretation will likely change over time as they have more and more experience to bring with them to the text. Second, reader from different periods of time, different culture, and different places will have different interpretation of the same text. So number 8 is sociological criticism. So this criticism argues that social context must be taken into consideration when analyzing the text, that there should also be an understanding with the literature in its larger social context, to the specific setting in which the social interaction takes place. So, what are the focuses of sociological criticism? So, the focus of sociological criticism is on the beliefs and values of a society and how they are reflected in a text. And then it also focuses on economic, political, and cultural issues within a literary text. And the most important thing is that literature is a reflection of the society that created it. So next is the Marxist criticism. So this criticism focuses on the economics and social conditions. It is based in the political theory of Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. So the focus of Marxist criticism is on understanding on how power, politics, and money play a role in literary text and amongst the literary societies and characters. So there are two most important focus on Marxist criticism. So first, it is the ways in which dominant groups exploit those deemed as subordinate. So the subordinate here are actually the working class. They are the owners of the labor power. They are the one who has the ability to work. And since they have no property and in poor condition, they need to look on how to survive and earn. And so they need to look for an employer. And that means they need to work for the capitalist. So the capitalist here is the business owner. And because of that, the business owner take advantage to the working class of their situation. So that's why the rich is getting richer by through exploiting the working class. Like the working class here is paid less. They have a low of wages. So that's why the higher class or the dominant group are getting more of a money. They get a lot of profit from the working class. So, second, it is the ways in which people are alienated from one another because of power, money, and politics. So, in this situation, there is a social divide is happening. There is some sort of belongingness for everyone. So, if you are from poor people, you belong to the group of poor people. So, if you are from social class, you belong to the class group. They don't want to be associated of anyone who is lower than them. Aside from making use of these lower class people. So next is the feminist criticism. So this criticism focus on the rules, position, and influence of women within the literary text. So this is all about the female representation in literature that is written by both female and male author. So the feminist approach believes in the ideology that all gender should be equal with equal opportunities. That is what they are trying to achieve. They are trying to change. The feminist criticism wants to correct these prejudices and stereotypical assumptions made by the author about women. Like women should always be in the house doing the house chores, taking care of the children, that women are vulnerable, that only men can work and study, then the other stereotypical assumptions that about women. So that is what they want to correct. So next is gender criticism. So before we further discuss about gender criticism, let's define first what is a gender. So, a gender is a state of being a man and a woman. So, what makes a man and what makes a woman? So, stereotypically, a man is characterized as more of an agentic than a woman. They are the one who is in charge. They are the one who is in control. While women is characterized as a communal, being attuned to others, building relationship. So, when it comes to gender criticism, when we are looking for a particular text, we are actually looking at how the author represents the gender in that literary work. So the purpose of this gender criticism is to criticize gender as how we commonly perceive it. It criticizes the author in his or her stereotypical prejudices when it comes to the gender. So here are the two tenets of gender criticism and queer theory. So first, the concepts of gender and gender rules are ideals created by patriarchal societies. So because queer sexualities were largely suppressed by Western society for so long, the appearances and influences of queer sexualities within a literary text are often subversive. So one of the literary work that I could recommend for you to read is the if this Brokeback Mountain by Annie Pro. So it is actually about the two men who actually are attracted to each other, but because of the socially constructed gender rules of our society, of our society, they suppress themselves, they suppress their true colors, they suppress their true identity. So the last one is the post-colonial criticism. So this criticism is actually new and emerging type of a literary criticism. This one is a type of cultural criticism that focuses on the literary text produced in places that were at one time under the influence of the European colonial rule. So, this criticism is actually concerned with the relationship between the colonizer and the colonized people in literary texts. It is also a best practice of reading that interrogate the process and the value of the colonialism. So here are the basic tenets of post-colonial criticism. So the first one is to seeks to break down the false images and myths that the Western world has created about the non-Western world. Second, colonization is both violent and destructive by nature, which informs and influences the production of art in non-Western colonized culture. So what I would recommend for you for this post-colonial criticism is the book of Chinua Achebe, which is the Things Fall Apart. This one is this book is actually one of the novel that is under the that under the influence of the European colonial rule at that time.